All right, it's another episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Brandt Goebel, joined by Brennan and a special guest tonight, Scott Omer. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. It's really good to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Well, we're on the same network, so to speak, Hooligan Soccer. We haven't really announced that yet, but your podcast, the Designated Pundits, is on there, and we joined there a little while ago, and we're excited to be on that with a whole bunch of other great podcasts.
Yeah, it's a tremendous network. It's a tremendous project. There's a lot of good content that is being, aggregated into that Hooligan Soccer network. So
aggregated. Oh man, you are just like him,
that?
Dude. That was incredible, man.
He hates anybody with
let me
vocabulary.
Google aggregated real quick so we're on the same page here. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
It's combined and grouped together, right?
Combined, compiled, yes. Yeah. So Hooligan Network has been just a great thing to come together. We're really happy to be on that. And when I saw that you guys were on there too, I thought that's incredible. I love that RSL has representation there as well. I just totally recommend anybody out there to go and give it a Google and check out all the great content that's there.
Yeah, it's hooligansoccer.com, right?
Something like that.
Google Hooligan Soccer. It's like 2 or 3 down. You go to Wikipedia on how not to be a soccer fan and to wreak havoc. That's the Hooligans. But after that, Hooligan Soccer.
It's like Hooligan Dash Soccer or something. Yeah. It's a little strange, but it's a great network.
And then I always like to ask, it's a really dumb question, and we made it through not too much of an uncomfortable introduction, which I am famous for. But are you a soccer fan, Scott?
No, not at all. No, yes, I am. It started early for me, and it started very honestly. My dad was somebody who played in an era where that was a little more uncommon, and so I grew up when I could walk, as soon as I could play, like I was playing, I had a ball. We watched World Cups and games and stuff as often as they were on TV. I remember being like 8 years old and getting up, at ridiculous hours in the morning to watch the World Cup that was in France that year. And, we'd get up at 4 a.m. to watch games and stuff like that. What 8-year-old, is doing that? I remember being 12 and watching the World Cup in, what was that? Korea and Japan. And I remember staying up, all hours of the night to do that, by myself. What 12-year-old should be doing that? I don't know, but I was doing that. Just always had, a love for the game and an affinity for it. And it was only natural that, as the opportunities came, I would, watch it, play it, and then one day talk about it.
So tell us about your playing career. I never played. I'm a convert to soccer. Brennan played growing up, and Tyler always likes to regale us with his stories of the mighty Hunter High Wolverines and their one-time make to the playoffs or to state. But what about you? What was your playing career like?
How
close to MLS did you get? Let's hear
it. Not very is the answer to that. Not very. It was a good experience for me. I had a really positive playing experience. I played in the Salt Lake Valley. I was in the Impact Club system. I just really never quit. So like when I turned 18, I remember I was headed off to Salt Lake Community College, and I walked on and tried out for their team and made that. And so I did a little year there and stuff like that. And I still play now and in the adult leagues and the over 30 leagues. It's not like a really storied career. I don't have like a lot of trophies or anything like that.
You never quit though. You never quit.
But you never quit. It's this thing I continue to do today. And like soccer is really cool because I can continue to play soccer to the best level that I am able to play, right now. I'm in my 30s. It's not that high of a level, right? your body breaks down. But it's excellent, and I've met, really incredible people, around this valley. I've met, incredible people from other places. It's been a thing that, when I travel or whatever, it's something that I have in common, that I can connect with people. Nowadays in my professional career, I work with people overseas. I work with people in Europe, in Australia, and other places like that. And this is a thing that we have in common, that we talk about, as we get ready to start a meeting or something like that. I'll be like, oh, did you catch this game? Did you watch this? We, give each other, we tease each other about the teams that we follow and stuff like that. So it's this thing. It's more than just like the playing career and all that, which is great. The fitness is great. The friendships, but there's so much more of this like life that it contributes to. And I have just loved that.
So you mentioned no trophies in your illustrious career. So does that mean you're a Tottenham fan?
I'm not a Tottenham fan. I had actually one trophy when we were like 13 years old or something like that. We won the Mayor's Cup.
Oh,
that was a good one. Yeah, Mayor's Cup. We were very proud of that.
oh, you should be.
But
Wait, how old are you?
34.
Oh, so you're my age. I was like, dude, this sounds exactly like like something I've been a part of. That's so funny. Because I like the impact. I was like, oh, I knew all about the impact. Yeah. What position did you play?
That was the funny thing, is I played a lot of different positions. I played a lot of left wing midfielder as I got older. So that was my big thing. I kind of a 2-footed player. Strong left foot, strong right foot. But I also, in my younger days, I played a lot of like center back for my teams when they needed like a little extra speed in the back, or just like a little extra help. So a little bit of both. I could score, I could shoot, I could cross, I could pass, I could play defense. So played a lot of different things. When I went off to Slick, it was kind of a similar bounce around the field. I started games at center forward for our team. That was maybe ill-advised, but
you don't like seeing the goalie that close, huh?
I don't think that was my best role. Started games there. At the end of the season, I was also playing as like an outside defender. So it was one of the things I always prided myself. I was always very willing to do whatever the coaches needed me to do. Whatever they asked, I'd go at it with as good an attitude as I could do it. And so, I remember I hadn't played a lot of outside back for our team at Slick, and we were in like the regional tournament at the end of the season. We were trying to win a game and progress to nationals, and we were up against a decent University of Utah team, and our captain made a mistake that the coach really didn't like, and he yanked him immediately and asked me to go play as a right back, and they had not seen me do that before, but I just went in and did the best I could. At the end of it, our coach, Leo, who had his own professional career in like Italy and the Middle East, is this Chilean dude who spoke almost no English. He's a real character, but I remember coming off the field after that game, and he came over and shook my hand, and he was like, "That was really good. That was exactly what we needed," which was a really unusual thing for him to do. So, kind of a meaningful thing, but it's just that attitude. You just like, hey, I just want to get on the field. I want to play. I don't care what you ask me to do. Like, I'm just gonna go. I'll go do my best. Like, that's all it was.
So now that you've aged like a fine wine,
yes.
What's your role right now? Because you said you're with the men's league. What's your role now? Are you just right back only now, since you were so good at it?
I have kind of transitioned to defense. I play left back now. So I've got two teams going. We've got a premier team in the over 30s, and I play left back for them. We've got a D1 team in the over 30s that I play with, and I play more center back for them. Sometimes I play left back, and sometimes I play a little center midfield for him. It just depends on, who we've got available, whose knees are able to go that day.
Yeah, those are the first things to go, man. Holy cow.
The knees go, you don't bounce back, somebody kicks you and you're like, that's going to keep me out for 2 weeks.
Yeah, work's going to suck.
I can't walk. Yeah. So stuff like that happens, you bounce around, you be flexible. I like to get up the field. I like to play in the midfield still. I'm not a great goal scorer anymore, but I like to get out of that defensive line whenever I can. But the team needs me back there, so I'm happy to get the fitness and do the work for them.
So tell us how you became. We can see the sign back there. How you became a Liverpool fan. Is that was your dad, or did you get to pick your own club?
Yeah. Okay. So that was very organic, actually. A little surprising. So I was not. I did not inherit any European clubs from my dad. I have an uncle that lives in Italy. He and my cousin there, they did not force anything on me either. It was a weird experience. Okay. It was like 2003. You just Premier League games, like you just did not get those on TV the way that you do now.
Oh yeah.
Right. In 2003, we had Fox Soccer Channel. And that was basically like it. That's how you watch soccer in 2003 in Salt Lake City. And I got up early one morning and I was, I went and I just flipped on the TV, flipped over to that to see what was on. And, you didn't even get a game every like Saturday. Like sometimes you got replays, sometimes you got old stuff, sometimes you didn't get anything at all. Sometimes you got Australian rules football. Like it was kind of a weird channel.
I love footy.
I love the Australian rules stuff. I used to stay up for that, but yeah, I flipped it on one day and they had a game between Liverpool and Manchester United. It was a game at Old Trafford. Liverpool were playing in their yellow jerseys, which to this day I think are the ugliest kits I have ever seen. They're terrible. It's like mustard, like a true like mustard yellow, and they had like the red details. I thought those were terrible then. I think they're terrible now. I thought Liverpool's name was actually really stupid. Being like a 12 or 13-year-old kid, right? I was like, Liverpool, like what a dumb name. But I remember watching the game and being really impressed with a certain Liverpool midfielder. And I just remember watching the way that he went about, playing the game. But the commentators were calling him out as the captain, and they called him Captain Fantastic a couple times. And there were a couple of moments in that game where you actually got to see his leadership and the way that he talked to his teammates and interacted with them and stuff like that. And I was really impressed with that. And I was like, that's the kind of guy that I would like to play with. That's the kind of guy that I would like to play for. And it just kicked off for me then. And I started to look out for this team. I started to look out for this player, Steven Gerrard, right? Like he's not a, we all
he did okay in the Premier League. Yeah,
he had an okay career.
Yes. He fell down that one time though, didn't he?
He did fall down that one time. Yeah. He never got over the line, unfortunately, but he had an okay career, and I just started watching out for him. I started watching out for that team, and I just started following and just really organically over 2003, 2004. I started to really enjoy this team. I started to really follow them. And at that point, Salt Lake still didn't really have a professional team. I didn't have a local team I could go to. So Liverpool games were kind of the closest thing I got to real professional soccer. That was the closest thing I had to a real team on my own. It wasn't until 2005 that RSL kind of comes to be. And I know the Blitz were in Salt Lake, but if you went to the Blitz games, like they just not the same.
They were not it. Yeah, they were not it.
It wasn't it. So yeah, there was this moment where like it was easier for me to watch a Liverpool game than it was to watch like a Colorado Rapids game or any other Major League Soccer game. And even as 2005 rolls around and RSL gets off the ground and stuff like that, if you're not in the stadium, for a while, it was still easier to catch a random Liverpool game than it was to catch RSL on the road or something like that. So it was just this thing. I was watching more and more and more of them, and that feeling of attachment continued to deepen. I learned more about the city, about the fan base, and the culture there, and I really like the way that fan base and that city takes care of their community. They really care about each other and stuff like that. And yeah, it was all just all kicked off from there. Continues to be a team that I care about, that I support, even if they are not my hometown team.
You've been to a game?
Not yet. It's on my to-do list. I'd quite like to get out there. I actually haven't been to England. I've been to quite a few other places in Europe. I work with European teams for work. I was in Italy like a month ago, but for whatever reason, I've just never made it.
That's crazy. It's like one of the best places on earth. Like I would literally, if I had the smallest chance of living there, I would drop everything. Like I love the fan base there too. Like when you're in the stadium and there's 40 songs that you don't even know, because like the main ones, like the chants and stuff.
Oh yeah.
You get in there and then all of a sudden you just hear the most amount of profanities in your entire life. And when I went, I was 17 or 18, my first game, and I was like, this is real? Like this is what they really do? And plus the only thing you can have there was like a pie and a beer. That was on the menu. It was a pie and a beer. Combo number 2 is 2 pies, 2 beers. Like it's such a cool vibe there. I love it.
Yeah, I'd really like to make it out. I've been other places. I've been to other games. I went to the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. Attended all the U.S. group stage games. I went to the Women's World Cup in New Zealand a few years back. Like I've been to some big games. I traveled for the Copa America Centennial that was in the U.S. in like 2015 or 2016, whenever that was. But I would really like to catch a Premier League game. There's something about those fan bases that are together so often. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's that experience that you're talking about, Brennan. I want that.
Absolutely.
I haven't been to a Premier League game just yet, but I have been to real soccer in England. I've been to multiple Crawley Town games, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. But it is an interesting experience going to watch these small clubs that you hear about. People, we could talk about promotion and relegation if you want, but seeing it live in a 5,000 seat stadium with the passionate fans, it's something else. It's a lot of fun.
I see the videos from those like smaller teams and their fan base and stuff like that. I love the engagement that they have. Those fans are locked in a way that in a way that when you have the big fan bases, the big stadiums, I think some of those groups don't always lock in as hard. It's easy to be one of 60,000 and be like, I don't have to sing. It doesn't make a difference or whatever. Like even at RSL games in Rio Tinto's not that big a stadium, but I go in there, I sit down in the stands, and I just chat with whoever's next to me. I don't feel that like that pressure. I don't feel that responsibility, to chant along with the supporters groups. Yeah. If I stand up in my section, people are upset about it.
Sit down, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think interesting too because I met a fan. Last time we were over there, Ken Blackmore. His nickname was Travel Ken because he would drive the bus for the fans back in the day before they were even in the EFL. They made it to out of the National League, but he passed away. But he was a volunteer for years, and it just really occurred to me is like, does these other clubs have volunteers? But these clubs, these smaller clubs, and you have small soccer clubs, all the rec leagues, all the leagues have tons of volunteers, but it's that level where you're really connecting, where people have that kind of connection, where they're helping out the club every game, and if they don't, then maybe the game isn't the same. So it's fascinating. I don't know what other sport. I was thinking maybe like AAA baseball. If baseball had stuck around a little bit more, because every town in the United States used to have 10 baseball teams, and kind of like it didn't get lost in Europe, where soccer is still the only sport, the main sport.
Yeah, it's so much about like the community aspect of it that somebody like that, drives the bus for the fans. It's this thing that is built up organically over years and generations, and community engagement, community building, and people who, it's not just the team, it's not just wins and losses, it's actually, all the people around him. He's not doing it for the club, he's doing it for all of the, you do it for all the people who go, and all the people where that game means something to them too.
Yeah, there was a great clip of him last year. Crawley Town got promoted, and then they did their best to get relegated this season, but they made it to Wembley in the playoff, and it was the first time Crawley had ever played at Wembley. And it was just that magical moment for these fans that had been Crawley Town fans for decades and decades. Ken was a fan for 60, 70 years, and he finally got to go to Wembley and support his club. So it was really interesting dynamic there. But tell us about you're on a podcast now, the Designated Pundits. But what about before that? How was how did you get into that? What led up to ending up on that podcast?
Well, I suppose we should go like all the way back in my RSL,
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to the inaugural game at RSL Stadium in 2005. I was there. I attended as many games at that stadium as I could for the next like 2.5 years or whatever. My friends and I used to buy like the $5 tickets from KFC, and the best days were the rainy days because nobody else would come to the game. So we would get like a $5 ticket for some terrible seat in the corner, right? And we'd go sit, on the 50. We'd sit at midfield and in the front row, and we'd be like the only people there. It was a great time, and so just attended and watched as much of that as we could, and that part of it just never went away. Anytime that I could watch the games, anytime I could attend the games, I tried to do that. As I got older, whatever, things change, you're watching more on TV, but podcasting starts to come about. I had a thought like 7 years ago, hey, there's not enough RSL podcast media out there. There were a couple of shows, one or two of them are still around, but I was just like, I think there's room for something different. And so a couple of friends and I started something. It was called Are You For Real? Or Are You For Real?
Very good.
Little pun there. Yeah, we thought that was really clever. It was very short lived. It was a good mix. I think the group that we had could have been, would have been really great, but I think we just lacked a little bit of the spice of proactivity to logistically just keep it going. So it was a little tough. And at the same time that we kicked off, like probably 10 other shows kicked off. So everybody had the same thought at the same time. But it was kind of a weird thing. The timing of that was pretty good. So the guy that I do the show with now, who's the main host of our show, his name's Bob. And he started a show years ago called I-80 Sports. He's on the other end of I-80 out in New Jersey, and he just had this vision for his show. He said he wanted it to be national. He wanted to cover the whole league. He wanted to talk about all the teams, and he started this sort of initiative that every season before the MLS season kicked off, he would interview somebody, an expert, for each team in the league. And he would do a dedicated show for each team in the league to preview their season, to talk about their roster, how they play, their coaching staff, everything. And in the early days, he didn't have a ton of contacts. And so he would just get on Twitter and reach out and kind of tweet the fan bases and be like, hey, recommend somebody for me. Who covers the team? Who's good? Who's knowledgeable? And when he reached out to RSL Twitter and he just put it out there into the RSL Twitter universe, one of the guys that I had done my show with saw it and he recommended me. He said, hey, you should reach out to Scott and Scott should do your RSL show. And so Bob did. Bob reached out to me, DM'd me right away, said, hey, yo, you want to do this? And I said, yeah, let's go, man. And it went well. The chemistry was there. It helped that I prepared for the show really well and did a lot of research. But we had good conversation, good content. It went, like I said, it went well. So he asked me back again the next year to do the RSL preview. And at the end of that one, he said, hey, by the way, I'd like to add another, host to the show permanently. And I think you would be good. Would you be interested in that? And you just come in and host with me, just because it takes the strain off if somebody's not there. You know what I mean? You have 3, you can do it with 2. And so I took him up on that, and I've been with the show now for, I think this is my 3rd season. It's cool. It challenges me in a lot of ways. I was not really prepared to cover the league, to watch all the teams as closely as you kind of need to do the research that you kind of need to do. They asked me to think about the game in different ways than I was used to. And that has been a really rewarding experience, actually, to challenge the way that I think about the game, to challenge the way I see the game. And then to sit down and talk with other journalists or experts or fans from all over the league. We had just the other week, we had a guy in to talk to us about the New England Revolution, because they're doing unexpected things. And, I have my thoughts about New England, and to sit and listen to him talk at length about the team that he sees, and, he sees things that are different than I do. And just, wonderful experience all around.
Well, what are some of the things they challenge you to think about differently watching the game? Because we've talked about this before. Doing the podcast has changed how we approach the game and how we watch the game. At least it has for me. Mm-hmm. And also, we've asked, I'm asked Kurt Schmidt about, is he a soccer fan, and how the game has changed. He can't watch. It was really interesting because he says he can't watch the game as a fan anymore because of the role he plays. Everything's about, how would that guy fit into RSL? What, how would that, the cap space? Is that guy tammable? All that kind of stuff. So as you're watching, what kind of things changed as you're watching the game as a podcaster?
Well, it's a good question. I understand where Kurt is coming from. I used to work in sports, and yes, I used to watch sports with a professional interest in, in my little sphere. So I get where he's coming from. And now it's sort of the same thing. I watch every game now, and instead of just sitting and enjoying and, being impressed or not impressed or whatever, everything is, well, how would I talk about this? Is this something that we need to cover? Is that moment controversy worthy enough that we should talk about that? Do we care? Do we care that that red card just got given, or is that no, that's standard stuff? You watch, special goals or whatever, and you're like, oh, we got to talk about that. Or you watch a play breakdown and you're like, oh, the defense on this, they're so out, off board. We have to cover that. But then the other thing is, this show, we do preview pods every week. And Bob's premise from the beginning was always to have a gambling aspect to the show, which is kind of unusual, for us in Salt Lake City. But I had to do a lot of learning. I didn't know anything about gambling going into it. It wasn't something I cared about at all. that changes it. Games that you might think are interesting for right now as just like a soccer fan, you're like, this game's going to be really interesting. From that gambling perspective, those are like really dull games, or they can be. Sometimes they're interesting. Other games that you might think as a soccer fan are going to be really dull, from that little spicy financial perspective, there's a reason to talk about those. And then as you evaluate teams, you're looking for different advantages. You're looking for specific characteristics that they have that might clue you into how a specific game will go. And so you might say, oh yes, well, this team generates, really high expected goals, or they concede really high expected goals. And so you just look at all these little, details and stuff like that as a fan, sometimes I just didn't care about. And now in this other role, I'm starting to evaluate teams in that slightly different way, and think about teams in that slightly different way. And I get to blend a little bit of like my soccer background and knowledge and stuff like that. And then this other like aspect of it, which is like this data analysis and things like that. Bob is a little bit like you, Brandt. He's a convert to soccer. Wasn't like a player coming up, but he's got kind of like a keen soccer mind, and he's invested in stuff like that. And you see how those like things come through. And in some ways, I'm like, what can I learn? What can I learn from him? What are his like views on it? Because he comes at it with that like fresh perspective. Like I look at it being like, oh, I know everything because I played. But he doesn't have that luxury, and so he gets to look at everything fresh, and he gets to learn, and in some ways like it's better because he doesn't carry that he doesn't carry that bias into stuff.
Whereas that's what I've been trying to tell Tyler and Brennan about my perspective.
Oh, absolutely, because yours is spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right.
Yeah,
us converts, we have a lot to bring to the table.
You do. I actually, it's funny. I played with a guy in the adult leagues for quite a long time. We probably had like 6 years together. And now we coach at the same club in Murray. And he is tactically he's one of the smarter people in the valley, probably in the whole valley, just as a tactician and stuff like that. But he's a soccer convert. He didn't play growing up. He didn't have the high school, college experience, whatever. You kind of picked it up later, but it doesn't matter. It's a game you can learn, and he put the effort in to learn it. He put the effort into to get good at it, and he did get good at it. And now you sit and talk to him, and he's got that knowledge. It's all you can learn it. You can pick it up. Whenever I see people on Twitter trying to say like, oh, well, what would you know? Like you didn't play or you don't this or that. I'm like, that's the like that is that says more about that person than it does anything else.
1,000%. Yeah, that's like the worst thing to say. Oh, you're not very good because you didn't play as a little child. Like, no.
Well, I have reached my level. I do coach. I think I've got the tactics down for the U45 club that I coach, my grandson. And then the goal is to have a good time so they'll come back.
Yes, it is. I've been coaching 10-year-olds, and I think I have learned more coaching 8, 9, and 10-year-olds than I did when I was coaching high schoolers. You have to break the game down for them. You've got to make it fun. You've got to make it enjoyable.
You have to make it palpable for that age, and trying to dissolve information into something so simplistic and concise. It's a struggle bus. I do that every day with tennis. But I mean, I feel you for that.
Like you ever want to be humbled as a soccer person, right? You think you're smart as a soccer person. Take a child and try and teach them how to kick the ball.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? Like break down that mechanic, break down that motion, right? Show them where on their foot they got to do it. Show them, how do you step into how do you step into a kick? How do you position your body? How do you swing your hips? How do you, right? What do you do with your upper body? Right? Is it stiff? Is it loose? Does it rotate? Like, break down all the little motions and mechanics that go into just making a simple pass. Like, if you ever want to be humbled about how much you don't think about and how much you don't actually know, like, do something like that, because it will humble you real fast.
And then they just kick it with their toe.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Yeah,
Every single one of them has ADHD, so half the time they're not even trying, and yeah, they're running all over the place.
And then you ask them, where do you hit? Where do you? What part of your foot? Inside. Kick it with my toe.
Inside. But what'd you do? I hit it with my toe. Did you do that thing that we talked about? No.
Yeah, it's so much fun. The black tarantulas, they're a force to be reckoned with. But so let's talk about Real Salt Lake. You talk about the league all the time. Let's get your hard-hitting, controversial takes on Real Salt Lake.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Don't hold back. Well, I think I'm actually stirring up a fair bit of controversy as it is, because I'm starting to develop a little cult in my corner of Twitter, because I do a gifts of the game recap.
I've seen this. Yes, I've seen this.
Right. And I used to do big write-ups of like huge Twitter threads and stuff like that, and kind of long form thought. And I just make it a little more palatable this year, trying to inject some humor. But I've gotten some interesting feedback the last couple times, because my stuff is not all doom and gloom. RSL's in a bad moment. Yeah, like, they don't win games. There's problems in that team for sure. But I kind of come at it and I'm like, look, if you can't see progress where progress is existing, you're not going to give a very good analysis. If all you can say is, well, things suck, like, what are you really saying about the team? Like, that's all you got. And so my brand of like optimism or positivity is ruffling some feathers, and I stand by it. I don't think it's all doom and gloom for this team. I really don't.
Brennan picked him to win the MLS Cup this year, so I don't know if he's still standing by that.
There is a swing.
He's got to make the playoffs
coming. There's a swing coming that if they make the right pieces work, we have everything to really, really affect most of the West. That's what I think. And I mean, everything can happen in playoffs.
What's your key piece? What's the key piece that you think has got to work? But I mean, I assume you think they're inside the club.
No, I don't. I mean, it's going to have to be from the club. I don't think it. I mean, it would benefit if we could get another right back.
We go on and on about right backs.
I don't like saying this.
Yeah. We can talk about right backs. I got thoughts about right backs.
Ooh, okay. You watched the last game, yeah?
I did.
Okay. Did you really think that was a good performance by Caliscan?
I thought there was actually quite a lot that Caliscan did that was quite good. The goal comes off the left side.
Yeah.
Not the right side. Actually, I've watched Noel Caliscan twice now, in that right back position. I think his defense is fundamentally sound. Mm-hmm. He's a center midfielder by trade. Okay. So be really realistic about his future as a right back. He's a center midfielder by trade. But the thing that he gives you is he's a center midfielder by trade. So he's a good decision maker. Mm-hmm. So when the ball's at his feet, he knows how to take care of it. He's not going to be the most dynamic on the wing. He's not going to pick up that ball and, burn people and dribble, dynamically the way that other right backs might. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to give away too many easy, right? He's not going to give away too many easy things. His positioning is not bad.
His basics of a right back were pretty okay.
His fundamentals are all there. And so look, he's not gonna set the world on fire at right back. And truthfully, Noel Caliscan is at a point in his age and development and stuff like that. He's not going to set the world on fire anywhere. But I do think he's got a professional career ahead of him. And I think there's a lot of teams that are doing a lot worse at the level of depth that Noel Caliscan is in the RSL depth chart.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, I'm really not unhappy with him and the work that he puts in and the effort that he puts in. I don't have issues with that.
Yeah. My biggest issue is with the upper third. I don't like how the right wing gets set up super far in the corner, isolated. The number 10 doesn't ever really come over unless Catranis is dishing the ball. I
I don't know
think
if you know this, but Diogo Gonçalves is the designated player.
yes, yeah, he's not doing so hot, but he has the capability and he has the talent to really change this team as soon as he finds his place in this team. Like, I mean, that's hopeful, but I really think he's capable of it. I'm not sure he's going to do it though. It's taking him too long.
I think he's a tremendous player. He's got a ton. Yes. He's got a ton of tools in his tool belt. His skill set is remarkable. You watch him on the ball and you're like, wow, that guy's class. But Diogo Gonçalves, I'm sorry to say this, he is who he says he is. And he is who his career says he is. And that is a player with no end product. It hasn't changed. You look back in his history, he is a guy without goals and without assists. He's a nice player. He's a really nice player. And he has not figured out how to translate that into meaningful, goals and assists. And then on the flip side, though, he's still a tremendous athlete, right? Dude's not slow. He's class on the ball. His positioning is good. And he is defensively anonymous, right? And this is my big gripe actually with Diogo Gonçalves, because you can be a lot of things on the field without end product. There's a lot of work you can do. Matt Crooks was a guy who didn't have a ton of end product, but we are definitely feeling the effects of him leaving. You miss a lot of that work rate. You miss a lot of the dirty work that he did on the field. Diogo Gonçalves doesn't do that. In the last game, he had like 1 tackle and 2 or 4 duels or something like that. Diego Luna had 4 tackles and 7 duels, right? Like it's just volume. A better comparison to the right wing would have been Gozo. Gozo had like 4 tackles and 11 duels or something like that. Like you just see Diego Luna off the ball, he's finding ways to make himself involved, right? He is inventing excuses to affect the game. If he's got to do defensive work, he'll do defensive work. If he needs to drop deep into the defensive or into the midfield or whatever to get on the ball, he will do that. He is literally just inventing ways to be involved in the game and to influence it.
I made a point to watch Diogo the last couple of games, and he gets to the positions where he's supposed to be. But like you said, I think that's the best definition of him. He's defensively anonymous. He's there. You don't even notice him, but I'm
going to be hearing that now for like the next 6 months. He's going to use that every single time he talks on the podcast. Gonçalves, dude, he is.
Scott Omer said that anonymous. Diogo is defensively anonymous.
Watch him the next time he presses. Okay, watch him the next time he presses somebody. And of course, now that I've said that, he's actually going to win that press. But the thing that I've noticed that he does is he'll charge at somebody full speed, right? He gives you that effort, that energy, but he never breaks down.
No.
Into a defensive stance. So as he gets close, it's just the simplest thing for a professional player to, shift the ball or just sidestep him, right? And off they go. It's kind of this like show of work, but it lacks the attention to detail that would translate that into something really effective. Mm-hmm. And if you watch Diogo on the ball too, he will never do something effective if he can do something cute instead. Right? It's always the back heel. It's always the little flick. The flare. Exactly. If he can do something flare, he will do something flare rather than control the ball and make an effective pass forward. When he controls the ball and makes an effective pass forward, right? He looks like that guy. He looks like that guy that we thought we were going to get. He looks like a DP player. The problem is too often that ball comes into his feet and he's trying to do something with it that is like cute flair, and they're just not effective. They're not effective soccer plays.
We use a determination that we figured out is the Menendez line, kind of like the Mendoza line in baseball, but the Menendez line for Johnny Menendez, and Diogo is way too close to the Menendez line because Johnny Menendez had all the talent in the world, but could not figure out how to play in Major League Soccer. The league was just too physical for him, and I think there's a lot of that with Diogo. He's not used to the physical play. He's not going to stick a tackle in. He's not going to stick a foot in. And like you said, I think your analysis is spot on. He's just there, and he needs two or three people around him. If he was playing with two or three people that played similar to him, then and they played off each other, which I think that's what everybody's hoping he will do with Luna, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And Brennan said something interesting earlier about finding a role. And I think that's actually a big part of it. I think in a lot of ways, the way this team is set up, Diogo Gonçalves isn't really set up to succeed. Mm-mm. He needs to be playing in a role in a style that is more flair oriented. And
flair, space. I mean, his he doesn't like having time on the ball. And he doesn't want anybody else around him to have time on the ball.
Yeah, and he should, like you said, he should have 3-4 players around him who are thinking about the game in the same way. And truth is we don't have 3 or 4 players who think of the game in the same way. And so he is thinking of the game. He's trying to play the game in this way that he envisions, and the rest of his teammates are like, what? Like, I didn't expect that. And so just I don't think that he is the left wing that RSL needs. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He is the left wing that somebody needs. He's the center mid that somebody needs. He's not the center mid or the left wing that RSL needs. And I think there are other players in similar boats.
Yeah, why don't you go through the roster? Let's break it down for us, because we talk about it all the time. Let's hear your.
Oh man!
And I would say that Matt, or what's it? It just went out of my head. Matt Crooks. Yeah,
former boyfriend.
Former, yep. Yes, he was my man crush last season, and this season, Cabral is my boyfriend. He's my man crush.
Well, a great man crush. I love Rafa Cabral. I was super excited about getting a player with his pedigree. Full Brazil international. I loved that he was at Santos with Neymar. Loved that he went off and played in Italy at Napoli. And he's been absolutely wonderful for us. I have so few concerns about him. I love the way he distributes the ball. Love the way he sees the field. I like his leadership. Nothing negative to say about that guy.
Take us through the roster. Let's hear all the negative and the
positive. We'll start in the back. We'll go forward. The defense, I think actually the defense is better than most people think it is.
Thank you.
I actually don't think most of our defenders are bad players.
No.
And I thought at the beginning of the season, I thought the way that we had kind of constructed the defense was actually a little bit smart. I really liked the pickup of Sam Junkwa because he played that hybrid left back, center back role for Dallas. Dallas's defense was not terrible by any stretch. So it was like, it's a really good pickup because he can do both for you. He can play center back in a pinch. He can play left back for you. And I think he has shown, if you really watch him objectively, he's shown that he can do both roles to an MLS standard. Is he necessarily your starter at either position? No, but he doesn't have to be, right? The truth is that you can substitute him in and the world doesn't end, right? Absolutely. You get MLS standard play out of this guy in two roles on your back line, and that's great. I think, Glad is the guy that everybody knows. You know who that guy is. He's defensively, he's pretty good. He's pretty fast. He wins aerial balls. Negative things, I actually don't think he's very press resistant, and I think his passing is a little bit overrated. But there are worse things to have when you're a center back. So, I think he's a very serviceable center back player. I think he's above average in his position. Brian Vera, I was worried about him coming in. I was quite happy that that Philip Quinton and Sam Junko are on the squad, because I thought Vera was a guy that could lose his spot, actually. At the beginning of the season, he looked like a guy who was about to lose his spot. Last couple of games before he picked up the concussion, he was looking night and day better.
Yeah, I agree there.
I think for him, it is a mental game. If his head is right, he is an above average center back in the league. He's got a great left foot. He can pass. He can shoot. He can distribute. You can play through him. He's a good soccer player when his head is right. So as long as the team can keep his head right, you got a player there. Philip Quinton, he is a young guy. I think we forget how young he is. He's got tremendous tools. I think he's got a really high ceiling. I think he could be better than Glad in a lot of ways.
We're Quinton fans.
Yeah.
Oh, we are. I'm just hoping he focuses more on the offensive side, because set pieces, he could be so vital.
Right. That's the thing. He's 6'5". He's got to be a little bit more of that, center backs have to
be tall.
Be missing, you got to be, 5 cans of a 6-pack, right? You got to be screw loose. You got to be crazy. And that's the thing I want to see a little bit more out of him, especially offensive set pieces. Go in there, put your body on the line, commit some fouls. It's the thing that Justin's good at, actually. Mm-hmm. He throws his body around. He commits a foul. He commits a lot of offensive fouls that he probably doesn't need to commit, but it's because he goes so hard. And that's why, a couple seasons ago, he scored 5 goals off of set pieces.
Oh, I missed the old man dance, though. That's the one I want.
Yeah, that was good. Bad. That was good. But Quinton, Quinton needs to develop a little bit that aspect of it. He's had a few mistakes this season, but it's he's not making mistakes that are especially uncommon in this league. If you watch other teams play and stuff like that, you'll see worse mistakes every single week from players who are supposedly better. So I haven't seen anything from Quinton that makes me out on that guy. I think he's got a really high ceiling. I think he's got a fundamentally good skill set. I think he's fundamentally sound defensively. He plays the center back position well. He's actually played the right back position for us a couple times, and he does that okay too, which is remarkable for being 6'5".
Yeah, he was doing that in Columbus, right? Because they play with 3 in the back, and he was over there on that right side.
Yeah, and anybody who can play for Columbus under Wilfred Nancy, they're okay for me. Anyway, and then we don't have to talk about Alex Catranas because I think everybody loves him, right?
Yeah.
Is there any negative to him?
Sorry, what's that?
Is there any negative to Catranas, in your opinion?
Yeah, his defensive responsibilities. He's a little bit defensively suspect. So, every defender should have an alarm bell in their head that just blares danger every now and then. His, I think, is a little malfunctioning. And, he had a couple of games where he didn't get the start, kind of came in late. Word was, there was speculation that maybe it was managing the minutes or whatever. I don't know. I've heard so many different things. I genuinely believe, though, that Pablo Mastroeni preferred Sam in those moments because Sam attends to his defensive responsibilities with more intensity. And you see that once Catranas won his job back, he has had a change, and he plays with more defensive intensity than he started the season with. I think that's his big thing. He had it a little bit last year where there were moments where he would kind of switch off or not track defensively as hard as he needed to do. And as a left back, I know that he plays a really advanced role for this team, almost like a left midfielder. but he is a left back, and he cannot shirk those defensive responsibilities, and he does sometimes. He got burned by Julio for the goal.
Ooh, yeah.
And look, Julio's fast, right? This is small potatoes. Julio is really fast. There's always going to be somebody faster, but there are other things that you could do to avoid that as the left back, especially. On the right back, we should talk about right back. That's where spicy takes.
Yes.
I think right back, I don't think RSL's in a bad spot. I actually think that the way that they play, pushing the left midfielder or the left back really high, you're kind of playing with three center backs. So if you play a Philip Quinton or a Kobe Henry or somebody like that as a right back, I mean, you're just playing a 3-back, which is fine. So you don't have to have like Brooks Lennon at right back or Aaron Herrera or somebody like that, because you're not playing that way. You actually don't ask your right back to get very high. With that said, I don't really have many issues with Bodie Hidalgo. I know that's unpopular in the fan base, but the dude's got...
I thought he was loved. Is he loved or not really? People are pissed off at him?
People are kind of out on him because he made some mistakes this season. But I think the thing is, if you really analyze him, his skill set, fundamentally, he's a fundamentally good defender. He doesn't get burned very often. He doesn't get burned for pace very often. He's fast, he's athletic, he's big, he's strong. So he doesn't get beat like that. The mistakes he makes are all in his head, right?
Bad passes.
And what it is he's not making bad passes because he has a fundamental deficiency in his ability to pass the ball. They're bad passes because he's made a bad decision. And that's what you watch. If you watch Bodie Hidalgo really critically, right? The mistakes he makes are mistakes of the brain, right? They are decision-making errors. He chooses to go into pressure, or he chooses to pass into pressure. He chooses to go, right, not take the easy passes or whatever. He chooses to dribble. Like, he gets stuck between a rock and a hard place and he makes the wrong choice. You can always take it back to this. Like, he made a decision at this moment, and that's what put him into a bad spot. And that's the thing. But he's still a young guy. He's still early in his soccer career. This is all stuff that can be learned and developed. Just decision making wasn't his biggest skill set. But I think, like, if RSL were to go out and sign a new right back to be Bodie Hidalgo level, they'll spend more than Bodie Hidalgo money.
I don't know. We don't necessarily. Well, I can't speak for anybody else. But
you cannot agree with that.
I don't not like Bodie Hidalgo. I think it's the other right backs, and it's a fact. If Bodie Hidalgo is your starting right back, then you don't have a starting MLS quality right back on your club, and that's where I have the issue, because right back seems like it's the most prevalent player position. There's just so many to find out there that could be a decent MLS. And RSL struggled with that. They haven't had a decent right back since Aaron Herrera that is above average or even average starting MLS quality right back. And that's where I have the issue. There's too many players that are all about the same, and they don't have a nice veteran in there that could play some minutes, and be an example for a young player like Bodie Hidalgo.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have more leadership, but I think, and truthfully, that's probably the one thing missing from the backline in general is leadership. The best the backline performed was when Nedum Onuoha was in the group, right? And he was providing mentorship and leadership. So yes, it would be nice to have that aspect of it, but I think so much of the right back depends on what you want out of that player, right? You could take Brooks Lennon, who's an above average right back for the league. He'll probably be in all-star conversations for his position. You could plop him down into that RSL team right now, and he would probably fail, because we do not ask the right back to play in a way that actually plays to his strengths. We would put him we would be asking him to do things he's not very good at, which is just be a defender. His strength is to get that ball and get upfield. He plays really, really high, and we don't allow our right back to go there.
Well, isn't that even more of a red flag that they haven't found just a quality right back that could stay back there and not make mistakes and have some experience? That's the part that's frustrating for me. I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but maybe, what's your thought on the way the team has been constructed? With where does the blame lie with the slow start, 4-7-1? Is it Pablo, or has the club been just not created well enough with Kurt Schmidt? Who's getting the blame, Scott?
Well, so can I ask you this question first?
Go ahead.
We switched to the 4-2-3-1, that aggressive style of play. And at the beginning of the season, they said that they wanted to hopefully get the pieces right to where we're actually only running 2 in the back. So we're getting a lot of numbers forward. Do you think that that's a wise tactic, or I guess style, with the pieces that we have?
I actually do think that's wise, because Bodie Hidalgo was a converted winger in the way that Lennon was, and Herrera kind of was. Herrera played more defensively, but he got forward in college. Like, he was scoring goals. The talent, the roster pieces seem to lend themselves to that, Brennan. I don't think it's unwise, and other teams are making that work without overexposing themselves. And if you consider that Ojeda and Anelli don't necessarily give you a ton of goals out of their position, then you probably do need to get your outside backs higher up the field so that you can get additional numbers. Because you need them to provide some of that width so your wingers can get in closer to the box, because you need numbers in the box. And if you're not getting goals out of Ojeda and Anelli, you got to find other avenues. So I don't think it's unwise. I don't think it's necessarily worked as well. Brandt, I guess to your question, the question I would ask is, do you think the mistakes that the defense made early in the season and the last couple games have been a notably mistake better, right? Like, I wouldn't say wholly mistake free, but they're not like giving up the goals in the way that they were doing early in the season. Do you think those mistakes are like inherent to the players? Do you think that's situational? Do you think they're happenstance? Do you think that's like those mistakes are just like a base quality of the players?
Some can be, but looking at the way the teams played, they played really well going down a man in Dallas. Their defense played well. They aren't giving up a ton of goals. They've only given up, 18 goals all season? That's not even near the worst in the league. It's right there in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah. The problem is, I think this club is really good in between the boxes. But it's the defense has gotten better, and I think a lot of that is Cabral and the confidence he gives the players in front of him. He's not going to McMath it up. We love Jack McMath, but he would just make mistakes. He would just get I think the pressure would get to him, and he had some mistakes. Cabral hasn't shown that tendency to make those mistakes, so he builds confidence in the players in front of him. But you can't just rely on one player to have 7 goals. Over half of the goals, Luna has 7 goals. They've only scored 13 all season. So it's that finding that final pass, that final touch in the box to relieve some pressure and score some goals. So in between the boxes, I think they're really good. They go forward really well. At the start of the games, every game, they are in the other team's box. They are putting pressure on. They're creating dangerous opportunities. They're just not finishing them.
Yeah, and you've really jumped, I think, where I get on the defense, right? The defense has made some mistakes, but I don't think the mistakes are inherently like qualities of the players. I don't think those mistakes are very representative of who those players are. I think those mistakes are really representative of where the team is at and where the pressure is at. And the team recognizes that there is a certain pressure to score goals, which they cannot do. They just are not good at scoring goals right now. Diego Luna has scored 7. Nobody else on the team has scored more than 1. That's not very good. You should have at least a couple players who are in that 2-3 category. When you are on a team that cannot score goals, the pressure on the defense is incredible because you know that you cannot make a mistake. And the pressure on you and that little voice in the back of your mind that says, don't make a mistake, the only thing that really does is increase the likelihood that you will make a mistake that you do not usually make. And that's what I see. Like the mistakes that I see out of the team, it's like misplaced passes or passes that are really under hit. And I'm like, these guys are professionals. That's not who they are. That's that little voice in the back of their head that is weighing down, that is like causing them to do things that they would not normally do. And like, that's what I see out of the defense. That's actually kind of what I see out of the midfield. And I think it really stems from that forward position. That front four, Diego Luna is the only guy carrying any weight right now. And I should add an asterisk to that, because in the last 2 games, Xavier Gozo has been awesome.
Oh, 1,000%.
And I think there's a reason for that. And it's not because Dominic Marchuk isn't any good. It's because I think this system is still designed around a player who looks and plays like Andres Gomez.
Ugh.
And Andres Gomez had a specific style. He wanted to be isolated. He wanted to take people on. He wanted to be dynamic athletically and off the dribble and stuff like that. Dominic Marchuk is a little bit of a different type of player. The way that we play with dual 10s, and they play on the left. And that right winger is like almost kind of like an auxiliary forward who plays wide. And if you watched the preseason games especially, it was really clear. You'd have like the team would be like structured square in the back, and as it got farther forward, it would sort of taper left, and then you'd have this one island on the far right side that was Dominic Marchuk. And you still sort of have that now. And that really favored Andres Gomez because it gave him the chance to do what he does best, create space against left backs and take shots and be like a striker. Dominic Marchuk, just a little bit different player, doesn't really fit his skill set. Xavier Gozo, I think, is a little more adept at that style. And he's got like a certain tenacity to him. There was a moment in the Dallas game, I think in the first half, where he was just battling with the left back, and like it looked like he was going to lose the ball, and he went to ground like 3 times after different challenges, and he kept getting up, but the ball kept moving like in his direction. Like somehow he kept moving the ball down the field. Like he's just got a little something like that, and so that's why I think he's succeeding in that position right now. I don't think it's anything to do with Dominic Marchuk not being a good player. It's everything to do with the way the system is designed, and it's not putting these guys in their best spots or in their best roles or whatever it is. And then, of course, the forward position. Yeah, like Peel is really raw. You were talking about. I just listened to your Vancouver podcast recently, and you mentioned how Peel makes a run to the wrong spot. That's a young person mistake. That's an inexperienced mistake, right? Veteran forwards don't do that. Ball doesn't go under their foot. Ajaga wasn't really that guy either. He was somehow never in the box from when I was watching. Like you're trying to get the ball into him in the box, and he's he's back a little ways, and he's like, where's that disconnect? What is he expecting? That plan just didn't seem to come together. Now Agata's on the team. I think he's got a little more experience, and so you're going to see him not repeat some of the experience type mistakes, but he's also just not going to produce DP numbers. That's unfair to ask of him. So you're under pressure. You're under pressure. And Diogo Gonçalves, like we mentioned earlier, he just doesn't have end product.
Yeah, what about thoughts on the wingers that we brought in as well? You've got Lachlan Brook, and Tyler Wolf, some young players that would like to see get more minutes. And that we had a conversation in an episode talking about the academy players, and it seems like it's a lot easier when your club is winning to give these young players some time, and when you're constantly trying to save your job and make the playoffs, there's not a lot of time for younger players to trust younger players and give them some minutes.
That's fairly true, which it makes it all the more impressive that Xavier Gozos has been getting a couple of starts in a row here. Look, I was not very excited about the Wolf signing over the offseason, but seeing him play, he's got fight and grit and fire and spark, and I think he is absolutely the kind of like impact energy guy that I think is a good one to have on the bench. I'm quite happy to see him come on the field. Quite happy for him to get more minutes. I think he needs to develop a little more end product, but he's still a young player. He could be a good fit to take over that left wing spot, actually. To give a little sort of nudge to Gonçalves to say, hey man, your spot's not guaranteed. Lachlan Brook, I like Lachlan Brook a lot. It's a little illogical. But I like his quickness. I think he's really quick, not just physically, but mentally. He processes the game faster than the players around him. He sees things and reacts to things faster than the players around him, which is a remarkable ability. He has a lot of development work to do. That is just the truth of it. He needs to clean things up. He needs to be a little bit better on the ball. He needs to connect his passes better. He needs to make those more meaningful. But he, obviously has, at least to me, it's obvious that he's got the brain for it. And so the physical work of it, being in the group, practicing with the group, that will come. It will happen for him. I truly believe that it will. I love him. I don't think he's a starter. I don't think you can afford to give him that right now. If the team was doing better, you could, but you're right, they aren't. You can't afford to just dump development minutes when you're not doing well. But I think there's a tremendous player waiting to happen with Lachlan Brook.
No, that's really well said. He is he's got so many weapons outside the box that make him even more of a threat than just, his possession and passing and, get in front of people. But also, a random fact, he is also not scared of sharks. Not scared at all. I asked him, I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, Adelaide. And I'm like, what do you miss about Adelaide? And he's like, the beach. And I was like, oh, you scared of sharks? And he's like, nah, not really. I was like, what?
Yeah, so that's a running joke.
You got to be crazy for that.
Yeah. Brennan won't. How far will you go in the ocean, Brennan?
Far enough to where I'm dry. That's about it. See, lakes even sometimes get me. Like lakes, I'm like, oh no. Have I been to this lake before? I don't know, but yeah, I don't do sharks in any shape or form.
Yeah, you win sharks are terrible.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Especially the high you win ones. They sneak up behind you.
Oh yeah, they'll get you every time.
No, the Australian ones, they jump out of the water to kill the seal. Like it's a 20-foot shark just breaking off the water. Not scared of it. It's crazy.
Just don't look like a seal. I think that's what Lachlan Brook would tell you. Don't look like a seal, man.
So we really appreciate your time. What are your end thoughts about where RSL? How's this season going to go? Are they going to turn it around? Are they going to bring in that massive DP in the
summer
window? What are your thoughts?
Well, I am optimistic about the new ownership. You have ownership who's a little more invested in the team, the community. Ryan Smith was distracted by other projects that were closer to his heart. The Miller family do care about the community, and they don't have a ton else on their plate at the moment. I know they're trying to get a baseball team, but yeah, we'll see. So I think there's opportunity there. They're not going to skimp on spending the way that Deloitte did. even if they don't necessarily spend LA type or Atlanta type money. I predict that this season is going to continue to be rocky. There's good bones in the team. The midfield is good. The defense, you have good players, and at worst, you're serviceable. Okay, but there's nobody in there that doesn't belong in the league. Your offense is going to continue to be a problem. I think there's going to be opportunities for players to step up. You're gonna really see who players are. You know, Xavier Gozo has come along in leaps and bounds. He was not capable of this last year, of what he's doing now. We're going to see how far he can take that as a young guy, right? Without too much pressure to be or whatever, anything. He's still just a young player. But we're going to see what he can do, if he can continue to be dangerous, if he can continue to be a contributor. I think there's going to be opportunities for guys like Lachlan Brook and Dominic Marchuk and all of that and Owen Wolf to find roles and to find minutes. But we're going to have to be patient as a fan base, because they're not going to succeed every time. There's a lot of young players. Young players are good one week and bad the other week. They, form swings wildly for them. They say class is permanent for them. It hasn't settled in yet. I think I would fully expect that RSL will sign a DP9 in the summer transfer window. I think that'll be too late to dramatically affect the end of the season. It would have to be a really remarkable signing for them to come in and just hit the ground running and make an impact over the last 8-9 games of the season. But I think that'll happen. I think Diego Gonçalves is in his last year of the contract. I don't think RSL is going to renew him.
I think he has another year. I think he's signed through 26.
I thought he had a 1-year deal with an option. And I thought at the end of this year, RSL had to option him.
No, I think
I don't know.
The last thing I looked at, because I was curious about that, and I think it said through 26 was like 2 years after that. I could be wrong, but I remember thinking, oh man, we are stuck with this guy, because he's not playing well enough for anybody to want to pick him up. You can see, could be wrong. But what about Johnny Russell?
Quick Google says that he's signed through 26 with options for 27 and 28. So
yeah, so
one more year, I guess.
Contract.
Yeah, that's $1.6 million.
Well, he could honestly
he could turn around. He could turn around.
He could also be traded.
Yeah.
So I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to be something he's not. Either the coaching staff will figure out a way to use him that will benefit the team, or he will continue to be this guy that is not what we need him to be. Johnny Russell, I'm actually really glad to see Johnny Russell in the team, on the roster. I don't know what he will contribute on the field. I expect him to be, a nice impact sub a couple of times. His form at the end at Kansas City was dropping off dramatically, but also Kansas City was
awful,
bad, so bad that who knows what that means. Was he bad? Was he part of the problem, or were other things happening that affected him? He's a guy at the pointy end of the spear, so other things got to happen, to make him effective too. But it's the leadership, it's the experience. I'm so glad that somebody like that is in training every day while Xavier Gozo is developing, while Owen Wolf, while Dominic Marchuk, right? There is a guy there who knows how the game is played. There's a guy there who knows what success looks like, what successful training looks like. I'm so, I think that's such a savvy signing to get somebody like that in the door. He doesn't even have to play, man. He doesn't even have to set foot on the field. He doesn't have to play a single minute for us to not, to be money well spent.
I think it was last week I went to practice, and he was practicing, and I think he scored 2 or 3 goals in practice, and they were good goals. Like, wow. So I think you're absolutely right. I hope he gets some minutes. I thought he might have been a great option in the last 5-10 minutes against Dallas with some of his savvy experience as a veteran to maybe nick a goal there at the end, which Marchuk almost did.
Yeah.
But he's 35. I mean, that's ancient in midfield in soccer midfield, right?
Yeah, he should be playing with me in the adult leagues.
Yeah, you need a ringer.
We need a ringer. Yeah. No, I'm quite happy about that. I look, honest assessment of the team, it's going to be rocky. It's going to be rocky, but if you look for progress, and if you watch the team with that, open-minded approach and say, okay, yes, some stuff's going to be bad. What is bad? Why is it bad? Right? And you look and you say, some stuff's going to be good. What's good? Why is it good? And if you can find a way to see both sides of those, and if you can balance that out, I'm not out here advocating, moral
Come on,
victory.
Pollyanna.
I'm not out here advocating moral victories. That's not the point, right? Losing sucks. You play the game to win when you're at that level. This is a team that needs to win. They need to improve. But at the same time, Pablo is a coach. Pablo's job is to make players better, right? So as a fan base, we need to do what Kurt Schmidt will be doing, which is look and watch the players and say, are they getting better? Are problems being fixed? Are they being addressed? Are mistakes happening less often? Are they being cut out? Are we seeing the same mistakes over and over? Are they always different mistakes? Are we getting players? Are we getting player rotation that puts players into positions where they're doing better, right? Like, does Gozo play more often because he's doing a better job at that right wing? Do we get those kind of like shifts and adjustments? Those will be the kind of things that I look for all season to say, is this team getting better? Are they improving? And hopefully the answer is yes. I think the answer will be yes. I think Pablo's a young coach. He's not the finished finished product. He's not Siggy Schmidt where he's a master of his craft yet. But he has a lot of good qualities to him. And I think if you're patient and allow him to learn and grow as a coach, that I think that'll pay off for us in the long run.
Well, awesome. I think that's some very good advice. But who knows if the fans will take it because they love to be outrage.
Yeah, now it's salty.
Got to be outraged at something. But we'll figure something out. We'll have you on next time. It'll be all outrage all the time, and we'll get people wound up. But
that's fine. Anytime you want somebody to vent, I'm happy to.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on again. We really appreciate you joining us, taking probably way too much time than you thought you would be and chatting with us. But we appreciate your perspective. We enjoy level-headed commentary. We try and be that ourselves without too much outrage. But
well, thank you. I appreciate what you guys do. You guys are you're doing an awesome job, obviously, with your show. But I love your presence online and the way you guys are interacting and stuff like that. And I really appreciate. I appreciate the invitation, but I also just appreciate what you guys are doing for the community.
Thank you so much, and go and listen to the Designated Pundits if you don't already. It's a great podcast. And any last comments, Brennan? I'll let you have the last word for a change.
Scott, you're an awesome guy, and you sound way smarter than us. So, congratulations to you and all your endeavors. And toodles.